Hi, second graders. Welcome back to your TV classroom. Today is Thursday, February 25th. It's Thursday. That means tomorrow's Friday, and it's almost the weekend. Hooray! I love the weekend. Do you like the weekend? Friends, let's take a look at our zone and check in with how we're feeling today. What zone are you in? Mr. Kevin, what zone are you in today?
I'm in the green zone today.
You're in the green zone?
Yeah.
Why are you in the green zone?
Well, because I'm here with the TV teachers, and
Yeah,
it's a fun job.
it is a fun job. I really enjoy being here with you, too.
And how about you, Mrs. Wally?
I'm in the greenish teal zone. I'm doing okay.
Good.
Everything's not perfect, but that's okay. So I'm doing all right.
Well, perfect sometimes means boring.
True. That is true. Friends, how are you today? Make sure to check in with someone at your home and see, or wherever you are. You could be at daycare or at a friend's house or wherever you are. You could be sitting in your classroom. I don't know. Make sure you check in with someone and see how they're doing today too. It shows that we care and that we have empathy towards others. And it's a really good practice to do. Let's get on with our learning today. It's What's Missing Thursday. Now this one you're going to go, oh my goodness, Mrs. Wally, what are you trying to do to me? Nothing. I'm just trying to have you think. So remember, we stop and we think about what do we know to figure out what we don't know. So what do we know? Can we figure out 25 minus 18? Yes. If you're at 18, how many to 25? Well, 18 to 20 is 2. And 20 to 25 is 5, and 2 and 5 is 7. So now we have to figure out 7 equals 17 minus what? Well, if we have 17 and we know the part we land with, we have to figure out the part we take away. How many do we, Mrs. Wally? There we go. How many do we have to take away to get to 7 if we're at 17? Well, what's 17 minus 7? It's 10. 10 and 7 is 17. So 17 minus 10 equals 7. So the missing part is 10, because if I take 25 and I subtract 18, I get 7. And if I take 17 and I subtract 10, I get 7. And 7 equals 7. Ta-da, we did it. Let's do the next one. What's 36 plus 24? If you said 60, great job. Okay, then what plus 20 is going to make 60? 20 plus what? Yes, 40. 20 plus 40 also equals 60. We figured it out. See, it's not as hard as it looks. Once you get over the, oh my goodness, that looks hard, to, I know some things. Let me figure out what I know and then solve what I don't know. Well, we're not going to be able to do the left side first, are we? No. So we have 62 plus 19. What is 62 plus 19? Well, 60 plus 10 is 70, and 9 plus 2 is 11, so 70 plus 11 is 81. Now all of a sudden, this doesn't look so hard. 88 minus what equals 81? If I'm at 88, how many do I need to take away to get to 81? Yeah, 7. So 88 minus 7 is 81. And 62 plus 19 is 81, so our missing number was 7. Okay, what's 55 minus 10? 45, very good. Something minus 15 equals 45. Well, I know when I subtract, the whole is the part that we start with. Minus 15 equals 45. What are we going to do? Put them together. What's 45 plus 15? 60. 60 minus 15 equals 45. So 45 equals 45. Our missing number was 60. Great job. We're going to skip the last one because of time. Today, we are learning to add 3-digit numbers together that require regrouping. Now, today we're going to use a lot of different strategies to regroup, and we're going to think about what we know about place value and place value drawings and open number lines to solve these problems. It says use base 10 blocks or base 10 block drawings to find each sum. Go ahead, I'm going to give you 30 seconds for this first one. Go ahead and solve this first one. Okay, I have 95 plus 23. Oh, look, I have 10 groups of 10. That makes 100. So I have 100, and then a group of 10, and then 8 ones. The answer is 118. Now, do the same thing for 72 plus 54. Go ahead. Okay. 72, that's 7 tens and 2 ones. And then 54, that's 5 tens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tens, and 4 ones. Well, I have 10 tens here, that's one group of 100. I have 2 tens, and I have 6 ones. My answer is 126. Okay. Let's look at our first problem. There are 476 rocks and 148 minerals in a museum display. What is the total number of rocks and minerals in the display? What's happening here? It's a museum. There's this big display, and there are some rocks and some minerals. Let's read and find the question. There are 476 rocks and 148 minerals in a museum display. What is the total number of rocks and minerals in the display? Well, we have what for a question? What's our question? Yeah, we want to know the total number of rocks and minerals in the display. Okay. In my head right now, as a mathematician, I'm thinking, okay, so I'm gonna have a total amount that I'm trying to figure out. So in my head already, I'm kind of seeing this. And I'm trying to figure out this total amount right here. Okay, let's read and figure out, and it's a question mark. Let's read and figure out the other information we know. There are 476 rocks and 148 minerals in a museum display. What is the total number of rocks and minerals in the display? What's our information? Yeah, 476 rocks, 148 minerals. Go ahead, put that information into our model and solve. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes, maybe a little bit less. Go. Nope, we're good. Friends, sorry friends, my Surface tablet is getting warm, and when it gets warm, there's part of the screen I can't write on, so I'm gonna move over to the other side. So here's our model. What are we gonna do to figure out the total? Put them together. So we have 476 plus 148 equals something. Let's look at some ways you could have solved this equation. Are you ready? Let's look. You can show each number as hundreds, tens, and ones. You could have said 4 hundreds plus 7 tens plus 6 ones, and then 100 plus 4 tens plus 8 ones, and then added all the place values together. You would get 14 ones, 11 tens, and 5 hundreds. Now, what number does that make? Well, let's take a look. 14 ones is 1 10 and 4 ones. So now we don't have 11 tens anymore because this 10 has to go over here. Now we have 12 tens. Well, 12 tens is 100 and 2 tens. So this 100 has to go over here. And now we don't have 500s, we have 6 hundreds. Ooh. So that's going to be 624 total. That's going to be your answer. Let's take a look at this next problem. You ready? So 500, they did 400 plus 100. This is adding the hundreds, then the tens, then the ones. So you've got 500, you have 110 because they add 70 plus 40, and you have 14, which is 6 plus 8, and then they're adding together 500, 110, and 14. Well, what's 500 plus 100? That's 600. Plus 10 is 610. Plus 14 is 624. Same answer, 624. Then they say, well, or you can add the ones, then the tens, and then the hundreds. So you get 6 plus 8 is 14. 7 tens plus 4 tens is 110. And 4 hundreds plus 100s is 500, and then add them all together. Let's practice this together here on this next problem. Go ahead on your whiteboard, I want you to write exactly what I'm writing, 649 plus 184. And let's add the ones, the tens, and then the hundreds. What does 9 ones and 4 ones make? What number does that make? 13. Okay, because we have 9 plus 4. Okay, and then 4 tens is what? 40. Plus 8 tens is 80. What's 40 plus 80? 120. Okay, and then we add the hundreds. What is 600 plus 100? 700. And your answer becomes 13 plus 120 plus 700 is 833. I added all my ones together and I got 3. I added all my tens together and I got 3 tens. And I added my hundreds together and I got 8 hundreds. Pretty good, huh? Now you might have seen it like this before. 649 plus 184. 9 and 4 is 13, carry the group of 10. 8 plus 4 is what? What's 8 plus 4? 12, and 1 more is 13. 3 tens carry the 1. Oh my goodness. Look what's happening here. And then 600s and 100 is 700s, plus 1 more 100 is 800s. We're doing the same thing. This is just shorthand. We're taking 13 and we're putting the 10 into the tens place. They just did it up here. We put it here. And then they added together and they put the 100 over here. And we add it together, we get the same number. It's the same thing, one's shorthand, one's longhand, but you need to be able to explain what's happening here when you're regrouping. Find the sum, show your work. I'm gonna give you 1 minute, go ahead, try and solve this one on your own. Okay, friends. Mr. Kevin, can you show my whiteboard? So what I did was I did the ones, the tens, and the hundreds again. Now you could have done the hundreds, the tens, and then the ones and written it out just the opposite direction, and that's fine. So I did 7 plus 7 is 14, 20 plus 90 is 110, 400 plus 200 is 600, and then I added them all together, and I got 724. That's what you should have gotten. So, your assignment for today, you're gonna do more of this work, adding 3-digit numbers, practicing either pulling apart the place value of each number and putting them together, or adding the ones, then the tens and the hundreds, or adding the hundreds, the tens, and then the ones, and then putting it all together. We can do this with addition. It's a little bit harder when we start working on subtraction next, but we'll get there. This you can do for addition. You can do it in any order. So your assignment today is to do page 405 and 406 in your math workbook, practicing this same skill. Today we learned to add 3-digit numbers together. That requires regrouping. So we identified the value of each digit, we used a strategy to add the values together, and we found the sum. We could identify your thinking. Now, if this is feeling too hard for you, you can always use place value drawings, but our numbers are getting so big that those place value drawings are becoming not efficient and easier to make mistakes with. But use them if you need to, okay? Awesome. Mr. Kevin, can you tell them how they can contact us here at the TV Classroom?
Well, certainly. They can email us, tvclassroom@tacoma.k12.wa.us. Ask an adult if you need some assistance with that. You can also mail us at TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kevin. Now, second graders, it is time for your break. This is where you gather your materials for ELA from Miss Oslin, get a drink of water, get your wiggles out, stretch, and enjoy your break time. Be ready to learn when she comes on the screen. I hope you have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Rules. 1. You have 10 seconds to pick your crewmate. 2. A new timer will appear with an exercise for the crewmate you picked. 3. You will get 10 points for each correct crewmate and exercise you choose. 4. If you pick the imposter, you will lose all your points. 5. See how many points you can get. Good luck.
Hi, second graders. Welcome back from your break. Excellent job gathering your materials and being ready for our lesson. Today, we're going to talk about writing workshop and what your job is and what my job is during this time when we come together. It's also your job and your teacher's job when you are face-to-face learning, doing your writing workshop. Your job is to listen carefully and participate in the discussions. That means when your teacher or I are asking questions, we really want you listening and thinking about the question so that you can have a conversation with someone either in your classroom or with your learning buddy if you're with me on the screen. You're going to have your writing supplies with you, which includes your ELA packet, your writing and reading notebook, your pencil, your learning buddy, your independent reading texts, whatever you need to be successful during writing that day. You're going to try new techniques, methods, and strategies to improve your writing. So when we're reading aloud a text and I'm pointing out what our author is doing as a writer, I want you to be brave and try that strategy when you go off to do your independent writing. You're going to work with your fellow writers, so if there's people around you right now or when you're in your classroom, you're going to help them if they are stuck or need some writing suggestions, remembering that we are all growing as writers. You're going to respect other writers and their writing by working quietly if someone is in the room with you. You're going to let your pencil talk for you. So if you feel like you need to talk, write it down. That could become a great story. You're going to use your time wisely. We've talked about making sure that when you sit down in your workspace that you have all your materials so you don't have to get up and go get a pencil or get up and go get your notebook. Be responsible and efficient and have it all ready to go. You're going to take pride in your work and produce the best work you can. You're going to think, imagine, and write every day. And you're going to live and grow as a writer every day. Now, my job is to listen carefully to your thoughts and ideas as best I can, and that will happen more when you're in face-to-face with your teacher, that they will do that. They're going to inform all your mini lessons and conferences. So what that means is I'm going to use what I know about second graders and writing to plan these lessons for you. I'm going to model what this says good writing looks like, but we know that we use the word strong writing. I'm going to model what strong writing looks like and sounds like. I'm going to use literature, which means books, and students' writing, and some of my own writing. I'm going to encourage students regarding what they have done well and give you compliments. I'm going to confer with students, and again, this is more what you will do with your teacher when you're face-to-face, that they'll meet with you one-on-one to talk about your writing. Now, I can do that if you send us your work. I can reach out to you, maybe we could do a Teams chat, and I can give you feedback and you can ask questions. I can assess students in an ongoing way. That means look at your writing and talk about how you've grown and what your next steps are as a writer. I keep a writing notebook, and I live and grow like a writer myself. Today we're learning how an author's life began and the lessons learned along the way. Like we said, we're all writers who are growing and getting stronger in our writing skills, which means there's probably going to be some mistakes and some obstacles or struggles that we have that we'll have to overcome. And what I want you thinking about while we read our text today is, what does it mean to be an author? When do authors begin writing? How old are authors? How do authors get books published? That means, how does an author take their idea and turn it into an actual book that someone can buy and read? How does that happen? Today we're going to read the story Author, A True Story by Helen Lester. Now, we read this here at TV Classroom at the beginning of the school year, but we might have some new friends with us today who haven't heard this story. So think about how our author wrote this story, all about how they became an author. A long time ago, there lived a 3-year-old author, me. I was the best grocery list writer in the world and a huge help to my mother. When I wrote a word, I knew exactly what it said. So one of the questions is, how old is an author? Any age. We're all authors. Even when my youngest son, Charlie, doesn't quite have handwriting down, he still makes marks on pages, and that is writing to him. He knows exactly what every line says. He is an author. And the fun part was that I could turn each list upside down and the words said the same thing. I think I made hundreds of these useful lists for my mother, and she never once said, "No, thank you, dear. I have enough." Then I went to school and learned to make what they called real letters. My writing was the prettiest in the class with straight lines and round lines. It was perfect, and it was perfectly backwards. I didn't just mix up B's and D's. That's easy to do because they look so much alike. My letters started at the right, well, wrong side of the paper and marched across pretty as could be and backwards. There's a name for somebody with this problem. I was a mirror writer. My teacher had to hold up my work in a mirror to understand what I had written. Now, that's quite the struggle to have to overcome. Mirror writing, that's part of an author's life. Think about what's a struggle that you've had with writing. Take some think time. Turn and tell your learning buddy what you're thinking. Gus, as a writer, oftentimes my biggest struggle is just coming up with an idea, knowing what to write about. Now, let's keep reading, keeping in mind all those questions about an author's life. What does an author do? Thanks to a lot of help, I was finally able to write in the proper direction. But writing stories was so hard for me. Often, I couldn't come up with a single idea. That was my struggle, too. And my stories got stuck in the middle, and I couldn't think of a title, and I had trouble making the changes my teacher wanted me to make, and I lost my pencil, and I wondered why I was doing this, and I got very, very, very frustrated. So I spent a lot of time dreaming about what I wanted to be when I grew up. This is what we call writer's block. And that's what I said I had, is if I sit down to write, I have a really hard time of thinking about what to write about. This is a struggle that our author, Helen Lester, also had. She also learned that writing can be really hard, and it takes a lot of practice. That's why we have Writer's Workshop every day, so that we can grow as writers. Since no one from the circus came looking for me, I became a teacher. I learned that teachers do not live in schools, eating only crackers and milk and sleeping under their desks. I also learned that teaching was fun and that children have fantastic imaginations. So my favorite subject to teach was writing. One day, a friend said, "You should write a children's book." And I thought, I spent 10 years in second grade, so I know a child from a chicken. Maybe I should. So authors are also teachers? I went right home and wrote a book. It was the best book I had ever written. Of course, it was the only book I had ever written. I illustrated it with my nicest drawings and proudly sent it to a publisher. Lucky people, I thought. Now, publishers are people who get books that people have written, and they decide whether they're going to print it and sell it or say no thank you. The lucky people sent it back and said, "No thank you." That's called a rejection. I decided I'd never write again. It's another struggle, right? She wrote her first book and was really proud of it, and they said, "No thank you." That hurts. Until the next day, when I felt better. I wrote a second book and sent it to a different publisher. The second publisher sent it back and said, "No thank you." I decided I'd never write again until the next day when I felt better. I wrote another book, and another, and another, and another. Practice must have helped each story get a little bit better, for on my 7th try, my notebook came back. Just a yes, please. That's called an acceptance. Wow, Helen Lester wrote 7 books before she had one accepted. That's hard as a writer to keep getting rejections and to have to keep trying. I was beside myself with joy and excitement. I was the first author I had ever met. I drew the pictures for my first book, but I did the pictures for this book. But usually I work with an illustrator who has been to art school and who can draw bicycles and refrigerators and pigs. This talented person draws what I would if I could. My pig, my illustrator's pig. So Helen also recognized her strengths and where she can have someone else come in and help with her illustrations. So here I am, an author. And every time I sit down to write, perfect words line up in perfect order and whoop, a perfect book pops out of the computer. Well, not exactly. Sometimes writing stories is so hard for me. I can't come up with a single idea, and my stories get stuck in the middle, and I can't think of a title, and I have trouble making the changes my editor wants me to make, and I lose my pencils, and I wonder why I'm doing this. And I get very, very, very frustrated. So even as a grown-up, published author, she still has writer's block. Helen Lester still has trouble making changes and edits when she's asked to. But that's sometimes. I love it best when ideas are hatching so fast I can barely write them down. I grab the nearest thing to write on and get so excited I forget what I was doing in the first place. The ideas that come in the middle of the night are hard to read the next day. Not all of the ideas are useful. I keep a whole box full of fizzled thoughts and half-finished books. I call it my fizzle box. Whenever I need an idea, I can go to that box and find wonderful things, just the name I needed, a funny word, a wise lesson. So there's some advice that this author is giving us, is to write down your ideas. And even if you get to a point in a book where you're not going to finish it, you're not going to have it published, still keep it, because you might be able to go back and use ideas from it later when you have writer's block. Usually when I first think a book is finished, it really isn't. I keep going over the story again and again, looking for ways to make it better with little changes here and there. I do this until the book has to be printed. Then it's too late to do anything more. What good advice also as authors for us to recognize that we have this saying that I used to say in my class: when you think you're done, you've only just begun. And that's when you get to go back and add, you get to revise, making your writing better and better each time. I used to think that writing had to be done at a special time while sitting at a desk, but slowly I discovered that I could write anytime and anywhere. I especially like to write when I'm bored, because then I'm not anymore. Of course, writing anytime and anywhere sometimes means writing on anything. So it's important as writers that we find the right time to write so that we have our best ideas. Authors are lucky, for they get to meet hundreds of children through letters, school and library visits, and autographing sessions. I didn't always like autographing books. The first time I autographed, my table was next to the table of a very famous author. I was not a very famous author. Her line had no end, mine had no beginning. I'm glad I didn't join the circus. Even though writing is sometimes hard work, it's what I love to do. I never dreamed I'd become an author, so this is better than a dream come true. Wow, there are so many things that we can learn from Helen on her journey to becoming an author. We need to think about, what are some of those key ideas? What is some advice or lessons learned that Helen shared with us? Take some think time. Turn and tell your learning buddy what you're thinking. discuss, Helen teaches us that writing is hard sometimes and that ideas might not come right away. But she also teaches us that ideas come at any time, sometimes even when we're sleeping. And we need to write them down and keep them in a safe place so that we can use them when it's time for writing. Friends, this is why your writing notebook is so important. You can have it with you anytime because an idea might come to you at any time, and you want to make sure that you write it down so that you can use it to help you become a stronger author. Now, today we learned about your responsibility and your role during Writer's Workshop, which just now I really hope you were using some strong listening skills. Now it's time for you to go do your independent work time. So again, you're going to remember that your job is to make sure you have your materials ready. You're going to write every day. Keep track of all your really strong ideas in your writer's notebook. Today we learned how an author's life began and the lessons learned along the way. Think about how has your life as an author started and what lessons have you learned along the way? And you can write those down in your writing notebook and send them to us here at TV Classroom, and we would love to share them. Mr. Kevin, can you tell our second graders how they can send us their writing?
I'd love to. You can send them to TV Classroom at tacoma.k12.wa.us. If you need some help from an adult, don't hesitate to ask. We'd love to read anything you'd love to send us, and we'll read it on air. You can also send it via mail to TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin. Now, second graders, before you go off to practice your strong independent learning habits, finding your workspace, gathering your materials, and getting to work, we're going to say our affirmation. This is the positive things we say about ourselves before we go off so that we feel confident and ready to work. Today, your affirmation is, I am a strong writer. Say it out loud. I am a strong writer. Thank you so much, second graders, for reading and thinking with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you next time in our TV classroom. Bye.
Hey kids, we want to see your work. Just send your pictures and your stories to TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.